It happened at 9 o'clock in the morning, not with a bang, but with a silence. A deep, 9-minute silence echoed from Mumbai's glass towers to Kolkata's tea stalls. For 9 minutes every screen in the nation went dark. Not a power outage, not a hack, but a choice. A national pause, a collective breath by 1.4 billion people. The world outside called it a crisis. For us it was a wake-up call. Imagine Delhi's chaos, suddenly muted, only birds, wind, and the hum of a nation holding its breath. In that silence something shifted, it was clarity. For decades, India chased approval from the West, running a race set by others. That morning we stopped running, we stood still. We looked inward. The silence was a message to ourselves, the noise of external validation was off. We logged out of global competition and logged into our own story. The government called it a digital sovereignty drill, but it felt like a baptism. The old anxieties, the colonial hangover, the need to be seen as world-class, evaporated. It was the quietest yet loudest revolution you've never seen. When the screens flickered back on, the world was the same. But India wasn't. The first image, a simple message in 1,000 languages, "Welcome back, India." We no longer needed a Western mirror to see our reflection. We were our own audience now. The 9-minute silence ended one chapter and roared in another, the day the nation stopped listening to the world and started listening to itself. That silence was not emptiness, it was the sound of a new beginning. From that moment, India's story was finally its own, and the world would soon hear it. Hours after the silence, the real test arrived, a joint statement from Western powers demanding India join a new economic pact. The usual deal written far away, favoring their rules. In the past, India would have debated, negotiated, maybe signed, but this was a new day. The Prime Minister's response was a single televised word: no, not "we'll consider it," not "let's form a committee," just no. News anchors were stunned. In Washington and Brussels, jaws dropped. This wasn't just rejecting a trade deal, it was rejecting the old power dynamic. India was no longer a piece on someone else's chessboard. We were the board. The world expected a follower. It found a leader. This no was a cultural earthquake, a culmination of decades of quiet frustration. It was for every time our capabilities were underestimated. The student told the teacher, the curriculum is outdated. India would no longer outsource its national interest. Decisions on our economy, technology, and future would be made in New Delhi. It was a declaration of full sovereignty. Pundits predicted doom. They said India was isolating itself. But they missed the point. India wasn't building walls, it was building its own door. The no was self-definition, the sound of a chain snapping. The last invisible chain of mental colonization broke. From that day, the world knew, when you talk to India, you talk to an equal. The silence had ended, the voice was unmistakable. India had found its answer. For years, India's model was simple: copy, adapt, repeat. We celebrated foreign factories as progress, always borrowing blueprints. But after that no, the mindset flipped. Why borrow when you can build? Look at digital payments. The West had credit cards. India leapfrogged with UPI. UPI wasn't an adaptation, it was a revolution, built for India, by India. It democratized the digital economy, from chai vendors to corporations. We weren't just participating in the digital age, we were building its highways. In space, ISRO became a symbol of frugal innovation, reaching Mars for less than a Hollywood blockbuster. We reached another planet by being smarter, more resourceful. During the global health crisis, India became the world's pharmacy. Vaccine Maitri wasn't just charity, it was capability. We supplied vaccines to the world, not just ourselves. No longer content to assemble parts, we became architects of our destiny. This was the new India building, not borrowing. Respect isn't given, it's earned. For years, India tried to earn it by being agreeable, settling for a stool at the big table. But after the no, and a surge in homegrown innovation, we stopped asking for a seat. We built our own table, and suddenly, everyone wanted an invitation. In climate talks, India flipped the script, not a defendant but a leader. We launched the International Solar Alliance, leading with solutions, not just debate. In economic diplomacy, we became a trusted partner, not just a cheap labor source. We offered resilience, stability, and trust. At global summits, Indian diplomats set the agenda, brokered deals, and proposed solutions. The world saw India as a pole in its own right, a civilizational state with a unique voice. Respect wasn't given out of politeness, it was hard-won. We weren't just present, we were indispensable. The shift was clear, from swing state to global pillar. India's confidence changed the world's perception. We earned our place by building it ourselves. For a century, global culture flowed west to east. India's culture was seen as a spectacle, a museum piece. But the new India realized, culture is power. We exported it with confidence, starting with yoga. International Yoga Day became a global phenomenon, a universal language of wellness rooted in India. Then came entertainment. Bollywood broke through, but so did regional cinema. We stopped imitating Hollywood and started telling our own stories. The world loved it. Startups built apps in local languages, solving local problems. Indianness became a feature, not a bug. From food to films, we owned our identity. Our strength wasn't imitation, but authenticity. Culture became our superpower. The world didn't just watch, it joined in. India's story became a global story. The old world order was about alliances and choosing sides. India decided to be the bridge, not a pawn. We pioneered sovereign partnerships, relationships based on respect, not rigid blocks. One week we'd talk defense with the US, the next, energy with Russia, then connectivity with Iran. The West called it non-alignment 2.0. We called it multi-alignment, friends with everyone, enemy of none. In trade and tech we insisted on co-creation, not just consumption. Fighter jets built in India, technology shared, not just sold. We championed data sovereignty and pushed for global institutional reform. No longer a rule taker, India became a rule maker. Partnerships were handshakes between equals. The world's new rules were being written in Delhi. India was shaping a multipolar world. For decades, Indian success meant leaving small towns for big cities. The new India changed that script. Innovation exploded from the heartland, Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. A young woman in Indore, coding on a smartphone, now builds a global company from her bedroom. The digital revolution brought permission to dream big, anywhere. Entrepreneurs solved India's unique problems, agriculture, logistics, healthcare, and found global markets. Jugaad, frugal innovation, powered high-tech solutions, edtech, fintech, e-commerce, built for India, scaling worldwide. This wasn't just business, it was empowerment. Venture capitalists now fly to Jaipur, Kochi, Chandigarh. The next billion users, the next unicorns are rising from the heartland. This generation is young, fearless, and patriotic, creating jobs for their communities. The hustle from the heartland is India's future engine. Today, as America celebrates its independence, India celebrates its own declaration of interdependence on our terms. The journey is far from over, but the trajectory is clear. The story of the 21st century is being written in a distinctly Indian accent. The era of seeking approval is over, the era of setting the standard has begun. For so long, the world defined India from the outside. Now, India defines itself. Our rise isn't about becoming another America or China, it's about being a truly Indian India. Ancient wisdom meets futuristic technology. Mars missions and village festivals coexist. This complexity is our strength. The world can cling to old maps or adapt to the new India, confident, innovative, unapologetic. The future is a symphony of civilizations, and India's voice is impossible to ignore. The 9-minute silence was just the beginning, a sleeping giant opening its eyes. Now, it's standing up. The message is simple: India has risen. The world is running on Indian Standard Time now.